Good afternoon. So I'm doing a Leadville 100-mile ultramarathon recap. It was almost a week ago. It's Friday today. I was in Leadville until Tuesday. So I'm back in Oklahoma where it is just hot as can be. So I'm gonna nerd out on details a little bit, and it's just for anybody that wants to hear about it, interested in the Leadville race, whatever. So ultras in general. So this is my third 100-mile race. My first one was in 2021, which was Leadville. I lotteried in. But that year I got done at 29 hours 32 minutes, which is about half an hour before the cutoff. Cutoff is at 30 hours, 10 a.m. sharp, and they're relentless about that. So then earlier this year, I believe it was February, with my buddy Daniel, I did a 100-miler Rocky Raccoon, which is down in Texas near Houston. It was just terrible. It's actually considered a very easy 100, but it rained and like we were just slogging through the water, and I hated that race. I just despised that race. It's 5 loops, 20 miles, and it just grated on my nerves. So this one, I came in, I prepared. I've never prepared for anything, athletic or work-wise, anything like this, school-wise, like I did for this race. Like, I had a coach. I followed all his instruction to the T. I just feel like I really put the time in, and I wanted to hit 25 hours. So the race has a 30-hour cutoff. If you hit it in sub 25, you get the big belt buckle. That's where like the elite athletes are in the 25-hour and under time frame. So just leading into the race, like 3 weeks before the race, my miles got up to 70 miles. 2 weeks before the race, I went to New Mexico just to train at altitude, and I hit 100 miles. And then the week before, I might have my weeks a little bit off here, and then the week after that, I hit 70 miles again. And then I went into a taper, which I think I was supposed to hit 30. So going into the race, I had a knee issue out of nowhere. I think it came on Monday night. I remember I went for a run here in El Reno, 8-mile run. I was pretty taxed. It was really hot. And all of a sudden, I just started getting this super sharp, acute pain in my right knee. And both my knees are kind of a little bit wacky from just weightlifting and running over the years. But this was something different, super sharp. So I went and got it massaged out. It felt a little bit better. And actually, the guy that we sold our old house to is an ortho resident. So he lives just down the street. And we just moved across the street, basically. And I had him check it out, and he said basically everything looked good, ACL, MCL. I think he called it a VHO injury, where basically it's just from extreme use and tiredness, and I was just having muscle fatigue, like where it connected to the tendon. Could be wrong on the terminology there, but he just told me to relax it as much as possible, so I laid off of it for a couple days. I was really nervous about this injury because I'd put in so much time into this, and I was just like, man, if I can't run this stupid race, or I have to drop at the first aid station, I'm gonna be so pissed. So anyway, I laid low on it. Once I got to the Frisco area, we always stay in Frisco, which is about 30-40 minutes from Leadville. I got like what is that? I don't know, just my beard changing colors as I'm getting old, I guess. Anyway, I did run a 7.5 mile, like super slow, like almost 11-minute miles. Just wanted to make sure everything felt good. I was pushing the stroller. We just took Clay with me, our youngest, and everything was good. So the day before the race on Friday, I did a 3-mile race, or 3-mile run, just super slow. I pushed James, our other boy, like this. I went early so that I'd have as much recovery time before the race. Like, this was slow too, almost 11-minute miles, like just getting the legs working, right? So We go to the expo that day. My buddy Daniel's there volunteering because he's racing in the 2025 Leadville 100. He's also my pacer, my like ultra marathon companion. Like, we've done everything together. My father-in-law Marcus, he was my crew chief, and my good friends Hayden and Lacey, they were there. Hayden was gonna crew with us, and Bree and the kids are there with us. So we go to the expo, get all kind of lined out on where we're going, go to the aid stations that we're gonna stop at. We're formulating the plan. We're walking through it. All right, we're gonna stop at these aid stations. My crew's gonna be there, and you know, all the guys, where the family's gonna be, which ended up being a disaster because Leadville Lifetime runs their races terribly. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They're iconic races, but my goodness, dude, they have logistical issues. It's just a joke. So anyway, we everything's good. We walk through the plan. I'm planning on going to bed at 6 p.m. and I'm gonna get up at 2 a.m. Race starts at 4, right? So at 6 p.m. I still have stuff to do because we got back kind of late. And I take my 2 Benadryl. I actually also took a melatonin because I was wired, and I've practiced this a lot. So like, if you take something sleep aid, make sure you're good to get up and run on this. I've done this enough to know what knocks me out and where I can get up and where I can run. So I take a Benadryl, kind of start winding down, take another one when I'm about 20 minutes out. So stretch out good, and I'm holding all my stretches. I have a whole routine. I actually have a video on that on this YouTube channel. So hold all my stretches for a minute, feeling good. Came off keto. So let me back up here. I'd been keto pretty much for several weeks before the race. It's just the best way to drop weight. I came off keto this day, hit Chipotle, had a good bowel movement. There might be a good bit of TMI, but man, anybody that runs, and especially runs ultras, knows when you're backed up, oh, that's the worst thing. So anyway, come off keto, go to Chipotle, feel good, go to sleep. I slept okay, but we were in this 3-story house, and anytime we're in the middle story where the room we were staying in was, anytime someone's walking above you, it sounded like a freaking bass drum. It was boom, boom, boom. Even if they were walking quietly, it wasn't their fault. It's just the way it was. That sucked. So from there, so I was waking up, finally, like, went to sleep pretty good about 9. 2 a.m. I wake up, hit all my stretches again. I had a whole routine. I had everything written out. So I fried up 2 eggs, I had 2 bagels I made with cream cheese that I was gonna eat on the way to the race. I ate the eggs right away, stretched out really good, but also quickly, just got all my race gear on, got the body glide on, keep all the chafing down. We were ready to go. We rolled out at exactly 3:10. So first it was me, Marcus, my father-in-law, and Daniel, and then Hayden's coming on later in the race. So we head to Leadville. We get to the race. I think we got there about like 3:45, so 15 minutes before the race. It's actually pretty warm. I mean, it was probably 48 degrees, like warmer than I would have liked. All I wore was a short sleeve, my running pack, and gloves. So no trekking poles on this first part. So we get to the start line about like 7 minutes before. It's packed. I actually was able to slip right up in the front, which was nice, and take off, and I just ran my race. So when you leave Leadville, it's downhill for the first 3 miles or so. A lot of pavement in the beginning, and I have everything paced out for a 25-hour run. So hit the first aid station at 12 miles, May Queen. I think I'm tracking just over a 9, maybe a 9.5 minute pace, which is good. This is running all the way around the lake, Turquoise Lake, for anybody that knows the course. So you cannot have a crew at this aid station. One mess up here. So I had trekking poles in a drop bag, and another Lifetime deal. Drop bags were basically thrown in a pile. And I mean, you're talking hundreds of drop bags with your information on it. Like a good race organizes this, where it's like, I mean, because they had them for 12 hours. Like they could have all been set out, whatever. But it is what it is. So finally found this stupid drop bag that had my Perpetuum, which is like a carb mix from Hammer Nutrition, and my trekking poles. So probably took 5 minutes, just chugged some of this Perpetuum, like put a little bit of water in there, chugged it down, got the poles, and then you go at Powerline. I probably didn't need them, but as I've gotten older, my knees and ankles just aren't what they were, and a new Powerline, it's pretty steep descent. So just like sometimes you're running down fast, catch a little tripper, pole, you just throw your pole down, good. Otherwise, you know, you may roll an ankle. Like I'm just prone to roll an ankle. So got this, rolled through May Queen, through the Powerline section. I'm doing pretty good. And we had agreed, so at Outward Bound, which is the second aid station, we had agreed that that's where we're gonna have our first crew meeting. So Daniel and Marcus were gonna meet me there. So I'm also carrying my Garmin InReach, something I use for hunting all the time. I have a tracker on it, dropping pins every 10 minutes. And this way, if I needed something like fruit or like something specific, I could just message the crew and let them know what's up. So I think I messaged them like fruit, we needed that, and maybe something else, but nothing important. So get to Outward Bound, and we had agreed that we're going to be kind of towards the end or like the last crew as I'm running through. So I run by the Lifetime aid station, the Leadville aid station, to go to our crew. I get all the way to the end and I can't freaking find them. There's probably thousands of people here, a couple hundred tents, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, did I overlook them? Did they overlook me? Clearly, like, we just missed each other. So I double back because I'm like, I don't even know if they're here at this time. And what I found was I was doubling back because I was going to go back to the Lifetime aid station, which is about a quarter mile back. And what I found was that they were halfway and they didn't see me coming. They didn't know I was going to be there, and they intercepted me, my crew. So like I'm getting closer back to the Lifetime aid station. My crew intercepts me. Marcus sees me and he's like, hey, right here. So we end up loading up, recover. Everything's good. Switch trekking poles to my good ones. I was just afraid they would get lost in the drop bag, and take off, like good to go. Got they had most everything. I was there a few minutes longer than I should have been, but it's just easy to be at the aid stations longer than you should. That's a weakness of mine. I suck at getting through the transitions like that. So anyway, go through and get moving on to the next aid station that we agreed to meet upon, which is Twin Lakes. We had to get there early. Hayden, Lacey, they were great enough to wait in line to get us a good aid station, or a spot for our crew, because it's so limited the space over there. So that's mile 38. So I run through the next miles. I actually run by a guy that's running with one trekking pole, and he's holding his side, and I was just like, hey buddy, like I was like, do you have side cramps? I was just making conversation. He's like, no, I fell on Powerline, dislocated my shoulder. And he's like, and he just keep going. It's like, these are the toughest bastards in the world, man, that do these races. So I was just, props to that guy. He's going, and get to Twin Lakes. So the way me and my crew broke up the race was basically mile 1 to 38, that's section 1. Section 2 was Hope Pass, which is mile 38 to 62, so there's 24 miles, but a lot of vert, and then home from 62 to 100, and that's where also my pacer Daniel's coming on with me. So anyway, get to Twin Lakes, feeling good, everything's good. They asked me if I want food. I'm still just not feeling hot food. Hayden was awesome and grilled out a ton of stuff, but unfortunately, I just could not eat it, but I think they ate well. So then we start Hope Pass. So as soon as you leave the aid station, you have a 1.6 mile run to the river. And typically people just run right through the river. It's probably like knee high, but I have taken my shoes off at both times I've done this race. I just cannot run that well with wet feet. And I mean, I feel like they tear your feet up. It's worth the 3 minutes to take your shoes off and have dry feet. So anyway, bouncy voice because I got a bouncy road here. So anyway, about to turn. So I take my shoes off at the river, dry feet, get across, and from there I am on the incline. So you have 4 miles up, 3,200 feet, 800 feet gain per mile. And it is just a bitch. I mean, you're just 30-minute miles sometimes. You just climb. It's a hike. You get to the top, and there is an aid station there with llamas because it's steep. They can't get anything else up there, so they bring this aid station up there with llamas. Once I get up there, stopping real quick, backtracking. I used to be a really good climber when I first started ultra running, but I don't know if it's my knees or what, but I just feel like I'm pretty average at it now. Kind of hold my own, but I don't get ahead. I used to make a ton of gains. But anyway, get to the top, get to the llama station, and they have watermelon. I eat they put it in cups. I eat 5 cups of this stuff. Just all right, rehydrated, got some calories in. And the whole time I'm also carrying these uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that I'm eating every hour and a half. And I'm taking salt every hour and a half, and I'm taking gels, caffeinated, non-caffeinated, every hour. Just kind of putting all this in perspective here. So I get to the top, ton of watermelon, and then from there it's down to Winfield, which is the 50-mile mark. There's about 2.25 to 2.5 miles of steep descent. It's steeper than the north side where you come from Twin Lakes, but it's just it's not as long. So I'm going down it's so steep it's not even comfortable to run down. I think some of you guys probably know what that's like, where your knees are just hurting on every freaking step. So get over there. I'm gonna stop for a minute. Pulling up to our warehouse here. So I get up, I go down at one point, take a step, and my feet just slide out, right? So it's that nasty. Almost roll my ankles seriously countless times. Thank goodness I have the trekking poles to just pop myself up. So I had that one wipeout. Finally get down to the 50. I'm trying to think if there's anything remarkable. So the last few miles, after the super steep part, they're not too bad. And so basically maybe 47 to, I think that's what it is, 47 to 50 or just slight decline. Get to the aid station. I'm just not really feeling a lot of food at this point. I can feel it had been hot. It was just hot, way hotter than last time I did this in 2021. And I knew I wasn't capable of taking as many calories as I should be, which is a dangerous game in ultra running. You gotta make sure you're taking your nutrition, but there's this balance of not wanting to puke either, right? So I hang out at that aid station probably 6 minutes. I was hitting my stopwatch every time just to see where I was at on this stuff. So I do that, get back up, get through those first 3 miles of easy ascent, and then get into the worst, what I consider the worst 2.5 miles of the race. I mean, it is just so freaking steep. Just going up, just one foot in front of the other. You look down at your watch, it's not even giving you a pace because you're moving so damn slow. And I'm oh my goodness, just keep on going. And this is what I always said from 2021 when I went into Leadville is, and did it. This was the point of the race where I was so tired. I remember looking back at 2021, and I remember this clear as day from that year was I was so tired. I remember I could just lay down and take a nap. I just need a nap. Let me just lay down and take a nap for just a moment, and I'll get back up. And you have to fight that, just right on the side of the trail. So it's daylight, I'm good. I just keep on going. Finally hit the ascent. But probably about a mile before I do, I guess I'm running next to some social media influencer, whatever that means. And he has this camera crew with him that has this drone. And he's with, I had just passed him. He was like 20 yards behind me. And this freaking drone, like just hovering right there. It was like, you get pretty irritable at certain times in the race. And this drone was like level 9 of 10 on my irritability scale. So finally I got away from that guy and was able to go down. So I get to the top crest, you go down a few hundred yards, maybe, I don't know, half a mile of the aid station, the llama station, because remember, this is an out and back race, so we're hitting all these same aid stations again. I hit the llama station, and I'm like thinking watermelon. Like I just need this, like I need something to hydrate me and some calories, like nothing else sounds good, right? And I was like, hey, can I get some watermelon? They said, we're out. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I hadn't taken any pain meds yet, so I was gonna take some Advil because my knees were just really throbbing. So I put 325 milligram Advil tablets, took those, took 3 salts, and I'm taking one of my gels. I use those Maritins or whatever. They're like the hydrolyzed gels, one with caffeine. I take that, put it in my mouth, and instantly, as soon as I put it in my mouth, I just feel my stomach being like, I do not like this. So I spit the gel out, I'm like, all good. And about 2 seconds later, I'm like, I'm gonna puke. Go across the trail so I'm not puking right at the aid station there and just vomit. Like I can see the Advil, or I mean the Tylenol sitting there. I can see the salt pills, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like so I'm at mile 57. That's the aid station on the way back. I'm like, son of a gun. So I go over to the aid station. I'm like, do you guys have any Coke? Like for whatever reason, I just needed something carbonated to take this out. Like my Perpetuum, which I carry on my pack up here and here, I just couldn't stand the thought of it anymore. And they're like, sorry, we don't have any. Then this guy whispers to one of the other guys, and he goes, hey man, someone dropped off 1 can earlier. It's in the back of the tent. Do you want it? And I was like, yes, please. So they give me a can of Coke. As I pop it, another runner's like, hey man, can I get some of that? So I pour him some, drink that, and I'm like, it settles my stomach. So now I just have a descent down. So that 3,200 feet down, I get moving, and I'm running okay. I'm not running great. I take off from the aid station. I never took any food in there, but I'm like okay. So I'm moving down well. I'm running 90% of it. Get to the river. This time I had extra shoes at the Twin Lakes aid station where my crew was. So I was like, I'll just run through and get these wet. I was using the Hoka Tectons. I probably wish I wouldn't have done this because I actually ran better in those shoes. So I run through the river, run through the marsh. There's a marsh part that I didn't mention earlier, just a muddy marsh. Get all the way through that, get back to the aid station, and cruise there. Switch out socks, so new socks, new shoes, all new gels, sandwiches, Uncrustables, like water, you know, all the stuff. And they're offering me food. Hayden's been cooking, and I was ahead of them. I'm using my Garmin InReach tracker, but it's showing late, so they weren't expecting me yet. And Hayden fires up the grill real quick and gets some quesadillas going. First, I didn't really want any, but I ended up eating a couple, which was a good move. And Daniel is now my pacer. So Hayden's staying on crew. Marcus he's been on crew the whole time. And then Dan's coming on as my pacer. And he has this pack from Orange Mud it's just like this, it's meant for like self-supported running. It's bigger pack. I was like, hey dude, let's bring the watermelon. And so we bring some watermelon and chomping quesadillas down. We're running through Twin Lakes. Twin Lakes is probably like half a mile of just tents. It's just a huge party. It's a lot of fun. So this is also where my family was supposed to be, but Lifetime did not want anybody driving to Twin Lakes. So they had shuttles from Outward Bound. They had 2 shuttles for thousands of people. It was hours long wait. So my family never gets to come out here. You know, I got my 3 kids, and the older 2 were pretty stoked about it. So my crew wouldn't have made it either. Crew weren't supposed to do it, but they had to like break the rules and drive out there, because if they didn't drive out there, they literally would have never got to me, and they would not have been able to give me my stuff. So it was a fiasco, like absolutely fiasco. They had 4 porta potties out there at Outward Bound. My buddy Daniel said he went into one. Toilet paper was literally higher than the seat. So for all the hoverers out there, and it was just the same thing. Like, people were crapping next to their cars. I mean, this is one thing they really, it's such a great race. There are just a few things they got to get in order, and it like basically supplying enough of things, shuttles, porta potties, you know, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, me and Dan take off from Twin Lakes. There's a good climb out coming out of there. I think it's 1,200 feet up the Mount Elbert part, and well, I'm expecting this to take an hour, because we got 3 miles of 1,200 feet. It's just slow. We start going, and we actually do a pretty good job here. We're moving along. Once we kind of start getting to the top, we start passing some people. We have a few people pass us. You'll see the same people that are like of your level running the whole time. Like, you may not see them from mile 20 to mile 70 or something like that, but it's just kind of funny how that works. Like, you just pass, somebody's better at the inclines versus the declines, and so there's this back and forth. And so anyway, Dan and I start going, still daylight. Soon as we get about an hour in, it's almost headlamp time, so it's getting, I'd guess, 8 o'clock ish, and so we get our headlamps on, start moving, and we crank through pretty well. Daniel's watching me pretty good on calories, but I'm also not taking that much nutrition in. He's like, hey man, have you eaten? And he's pacing me from behind. So I'm behind, I'm in front, setting the pace, but he's just keeping us going, like talking to us, keeping everything going well, which worked out really, really well. Because I was starting to get pretty tired. So we roll through, there's a aid station at, gosh, what do they call that? Between Outward Bound and Twin Lakes, Half Pipe aid station there. We get some food, and at this point I cannot take any more Perpetuum, like the carb drink I have. It's just like and so we dump all that out. Daniel fills it with just Coca-Cola. So get Coke in each of those, and this becomes my main calorie source for the rest of the race, is just essentially soda or pop. And we take off. It does start raining on us a couple times here, so we have rain jackets coming in and out. But the problem is, when anybody who hunts or hikes or does anything in a rain jacket, they get hot like really quick. So we're wearing them. When it's raining, they're coming right off. And we get to Outward Bound to meet the crew. So what do we got left? 24 miles. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired at this point. Absolutely insanely tired. We leave. Let me think, anything big happened. We probably sat there probably 6 to 8 minutes. I'm just watermelon. That's where I'm at. Like, I feel like this is like mostly all I can take. We switched my bottles to Mountain Dew. We're Mountain Dew folks. What's up? And so that just works really good. I'm trying to eat Uncrustables as we can. This is the next and last big climb, Powerline. Powerline's a beast climbing up, because it's always late in the race. It's like, I think it's about 2 miles, probably the start of it, from Outward Bound. So probably about mile, I think we were at 76 when we left Outward Bound. So we're about like 78, and it just goes and goes. And it's kind of a demoralizing climb, because at this point it's pitch black. I mean, I wish I had my times in front of me. I think it's 2 in the morning right now. And it might have been 3 in the morning when we left Outward Bound. I projected to leave at 2, but we're running an hour late off my projections for 25. And we get up there, and you can see headlamps so far up there. and you're just like, oh my gosh, like how far is that? Is that an hour away? Is that like, you just have no idea how to like quantify like how far that is. And so anyway, it's just a climb and a climb. And this is where you start really seeing runners leaning, just stopping, bending over their poles, stretching out, stuff like that. We saw that countless times, but Daniel and I never stopped. Like outside of aid stations, we never once stop or stretch out anything, except at the very end when I had to take a dump 2 times, but we'll come back to that. We're climbing, finally get out of power line. We actually passed quite a few people on that, and it kind of starts to flatten out for a minute, and then it's downhill, and we just started running. Nothing fast. It was very slow pace. I mean, my quads are just blowing up at this point. I'm not having tendon issues, so typically like right here, from probably shoelaces or something, I have had like a lot of tendon issues on these long 100-mile runs. Never had that. I don't know if it's because I finally put in the right amount of training, loosen my shoelaces, whatever. So anyway, we go down, we get down pretty quick to May Queen, 12 miles out. So when we leave, so Hayden and Marcus meet us at May Queen. Daniel actually runs ahead to kind of get everything ready, flies by them, doesn't even see them, and Hayden's like, was that Daniel? But he's moving so fast, they didn't know for sure. And then finally they see me come in, and we get everything prepped, get it in my pack. Trying to think if there's anything remarkable here. Like, I mean, I know all these guys super well. Hayden, I could hear it in his voice. Him and I have done a ton of hunting together in Western states, and gosh, he was tired. Marcus was tired. Daniel, I mean, I was tired. We were just all smoked. But they did such a good job on this, on just kind of keeping on task here. So switch out headlamp batteries. Every aid station got new headlamp batteries. It didn't matter. We just didn't want to mess with it. So I actually had 2 headlamps that I was alternating so they could do this in between, 2 black diamond headlamps. And then I also carry a tiny Petzl headlamp as a backup, which I did have to use once in the first of the race, the first 12 miles. Remember, this race starts at 4 a.m. So we are getting ready to leave May Queen for the final 12 miles. And this aid station worker is so common of aid station workers. They love telling you things that sound good. Hey guys, quote, hey guys, it's all downhill until the last 3 miles. And then a climb up into Leadville, and you're like, okay, cool. You hang on to that. Daniel and I leave. It is not downhill. It's like, I knew the elevation charts, but you forget this stuff. Like your brain, your brain is working at like sometimes like 30% or something. Like you're like trying to do simple calculations. It's just like you can barely get through them. So I was like, man, maybe it is all downhill. We start going, it's ups and downs with a constant slightly up. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I could hardly run those at this point. So my kid, Bree, my wife, and my kids wanted, my 2 older kids wanted to come to the finish line. So we're trying to time this because we still, at this point, I know I'm not hitting 25 hours. Like we would have to do basically a 9-minute mile for a half marathon, which isn't hard until you run 88 miles. It just was not freaking happening. And I told Daniel, I said, man, I'm good with it. I was like, we're pushing good. We're going to kick the hell out of my other previous time. Let's just move. So tons of walking. And we're actually getting kind of passed in some of these walking by some of these other people. Most everyone's walking. We're not seeing any running at this point. But it's just like my hiking was just suffering. And at some point, Daniel goes, man, I think we have about 3 hours left at this pace. And that right there was like, I cannot be out here for 3 more hours. That was the motivation I needed. And so I started being able to run. It was like just barely on the downhills. I mean, just terrible 12 and a half, maybe even 13-minute miles, like stuff like that. But I noticed our walk was like close to a 17. So I was like, it's shaving it off. So all the downhills, most of the flats we started running again. We're just moving, and let me think. So we come out around the lake. I'm trying to remember this. It's funny how foggy your memory gets, but we're coming out around the lake, and then there's a road, and at this point it's just starting to get gray light, so we're about to see that second sunrise. So that was actually, I always consider Leadville 2021 the most memorable night of my life. Like, legitimately, it was just like, saw 2 sunrises so hard. My buddy Chad paced me in on the very end, and my buddy Jesse paced me earlier. And Chad's a legit ultra runner. Like, you know, he's gotten second on several races and stuff like that. Way out of my class. But anyway, just that memory of 2021, and it was incredible. Like, so this, and 2024 is pretty reminiscent of it. But what's funny is, although I was way ahead, I was a few hours ahead on 2024 this year, I was so much more tired, like so much. I kept telling Daniel, I am so tired, dude, I'm so tired. Like, just keep walking. And I'm not a social runner. Like my buddy Daniel, he's very social. Like, I told him, we were just talking yesterday, and I was like, when you run, you come away with like all these phone numbers of new friends and stuff. Like, I don't talk to anybody. And so fortunately, Daniel's like talking and like kind of keeping me engaged and stuff, because like when he wasn't, I was so freaking tired. And Dan was the same way. Daniel, same person, FYI. He literally, we were both like falling asleep walking. Weirdest thing ever. He woke up like walking into a tree. It was just crazy how this would happen, like this level of fatigue, which in 2021, I never hit that level of tiredness, even though we were on the course longer and I'd push myself harder. So, anyway, we're just going, we're hitting that gray light, finally hit that road. You're on that road for a nice long while. It's a slight incline. I tried to run a few times, not very successfully. Then you hit a little Jeep trail. So within like, you're probably like mile 96, maybe 3/4 of a mile. And then there's a gravel road that finally turns into the paved road where you can see the finish line. So Daniel had coordinated with my wife and with our team and been like, hey, this is where we're at. So Bree's there with my 2 youngest kids, and we get up, we're finally where we can see Leadville, like the finish line. I think it's a mile at this point. I think you can maybe see it to a mile. I might be off on this a little bit, but it's just like uphill, and I see the kids, and I was just like, oh my goodness, thank goodness, like we're almost done. So we get up there, and Dan goes to the side there, and my 2 kids run in with me, and we cross the finish line at, oh, I gotta back up. When we left May Queen, I finally had to go number 2. It was about 3 miles after. That was exactly what happened to me in 2021. I was like, dude, I gotta go. So go, we got wipes, all that stuff, good to go. So, and actually that made me be able to run. But check this out. 2 miles before the finish line, I told Dan, I was like, dude, I know we got to finish this thing, but I have to go again. And like, it was like, I just wanted to be done. I knew there was porta potties there, but man, it was when you got to go an ultra run and you got to go. So anyway, stopped there, stopped in a pine thicket, took care of business, finally get to that finish line, back to where it was at in the story, and my kids are coming in, and they run in with me for the last couple hundred yards or whatever, and love them. I'm glad they were there. It's crack of dawn. So we finished at 6:45, so 20, let me make sure my time's right here, or 5:45, I can't remember. 26:45 is how long the race took me. So I think we finished at 6:45. So yeah, or 26:46 maybe. I was about 2 hours and 45 minutes faster than I was in 21. Man, it was so good. So good to be done. You know, when I finished in 2021, I literally sat down and I was totally unable to run because that tendon, like I was telling you, on the front of my foot was so swollen, and I just puked all over myself. I literally, gun to my head, could not get up and walk. And they carried me to the truck. Once we got back to our cabin, I'm still talking about 2021 here. Once we got back to the cabin, they had to put me on our Bob stroller, wheel me to the house, and my room was upstairs, unfortunately, and I laid in bed for 2 or 3 days, could not get out, brought me food, and sweated through the bed after all these hundreds, I've always sweated like crazy at night, and sweated through the bed so much that they called us and they said, hey, why is the bed all wet? And my wife had to tell them, well, my husband just got done with Leadville, and they're like, okay, we just wanted to make sure this wasn't a COVID thing. So anyway, but man, after this race, like, it was crazy. Like, you know, I'm not an emotional person at all. Like, I rarely cry about anything, or like, I just don't feel that way naturally. Man, after this race, I literally just started tearing up and kind of like, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And it's just like, you're so taxed, like, just like weird things happen. Actually, my daughter was like, I saw you cry, that was your first time crying, because she's never seen me cry or anything, which is funny in its own right. But you know, I was able to walk to the truck. I was smoked, I was tired, got to the truck, and we drove back, had the family. Hayden was with us. Daniel and Marcus took my truck from the crew vehicle, got back to Leadville, and yeah, I was good. I slept most of the day, but ended up getting up, walking upstairs, and man, it was an incredible race. That's, like I said, this is my last 100, and I feel like a good one to go out on. I love Leadville. I've run the 50 at least 4 times with Dan. I feel like it was my first ultra, the Leadville 50, and so I love it there. I wish Lifetime could kind of get it together. But other than that, yeah, I think that's a good recap. What else? Is there anything else I could offer on this? I don't know. I'm gonna take it easy for a while. I've already put on about 12 pounds, just eating tons of ice cream. Dan did us a solid and went and got 3 half gallons of ice cream that night, and a bunch of ice cream bars, and no keto for a little bit. So I got an elk hunt coming up here in less than 2 weeks in Wyoming, so I gotta, time to transition, start shooting the bow, make sure I don't get too soft and lazy here. And then I'm pacing Daniel. He's doing 100 in Arkansas for the Arkansas Traveler here October, first week in October, like 6th or something like that. So anyway, I'm pacing him on that, so I got to be careful a little bit on the ice cream. So anyway, that's my recap. Leadville's the greatest, man. It's really made me right here. So anyway, thanks for listening.